Welcome to this next episode of Year in Review, where we speak about careers. And we've spoken about careers in indirect ways in a couple of earlier episodes as well. We spoke about Year in Review for students as they transition from school to college, and in another episode, we spoke about the packs that people need to transition from academia into the industry. Not only that, in one of the episodes around Year in Search and Can I Change, we also saw that one of the big things that people were searching for during this year was Can I change careers? So, in this episode, I will be sharing my thoughts around how one can go about addressing that question of Can I change my careers or can I turbocharge my career to reach my destination faster? In today's times, a discussion around careers cannot be unidimensional. You have the option of making a career in employment across multiple different industries and functions, etc. But you also have the option to become an entrepreneur as also a gigster or a freelancer. I've been fortunate enough to have an experience with all of these different sorts of careers, particularly during this year when I left employment and am now on my own, both as an entrepreneur as well as a business advisor to many different startups and founders of these young organizations. And that is not all. According to me, one of the biggest ingredients of a successful career is the ability to be a lifelong learner. And in that context, I am most excited about my role as an educator, as I help plug the gaps between academia and industry, as I spoke about in my earlier episode. With this background and context, let's start to wrap our heads around what is it that we need to do in order to bring about a change in the trajectory of our careers or just accelerating our career path. There are many different elements to this discussion which I cannot possibly do justice to. But what I will try and do is wrap many of these points around a structure, around a framework, around a way of thinking through which you can also approach these questions because each and every individual is different. Instead of giving just one prescriptive answer which applies to you as well as universally to many others who may not be in the same boat as you, instead of doing that, what I am doing is creating a RAP. And RAP here is an acronym for four key things that I think one should think about as you are planning a career transition or a career acceleration. But first things first, let us start with the most important aspect of RAP, which is the purpose. Purpose is a loaded word and has been doing the rounds of late, but it has become even more prominent and much more relevant in the context of the pandemic. The pandemic slowed things down. It ensured that we are locked down inside the confines of our homes, and it gave us an opportunity to do some deep thinking. In particular, there was a realization about the mortality of our beings, about the fact that our shelf lives are limited. And this really triggered a chain reaction of thoughts in the minds of a lot of people, and they started questioning whether what they are doing in their careers is even related to what their purpose is, what their goals are, what they truly enjoy doing. Because you never know, time may just run out before you realize, and may do so even without a warning bell. In this context, one of the most memorable speeches that I've heard is the iconic speech by Steve Jobs when he spoke at the Stanford commencement address. One of the most famous things in that speech was what he mentioned around connecting the dots. But he spoke about three stories, and connecting the dots was just one of them. The third one was a story about death. I do not think the world at large was able to relate to this third story of Steve Jobs during those times. But I think if you relook at that speech now, in the context of the pandemic, in the context of the new normal, you would realize the words of wisdom that he spoke well ahead of his times. I had an occasion to do just that and have revisited Steve Jobs' iconic speech in the context of the new normal. And there are a lot of life lessons, career lessons that one can draw from that speech. I've done an article as well as a video on this, and I will drop the links in the description for you to peruse at your own leisure. But wrapping up the point on purpose, the key thing is that one needs to identify and articulate what is it that is their purpose, what is it that drives you, what is it that you strive for. If the world were available to you on a platter, what is it that you would most love to do? What is it that you would want to be remembered for? What is it that you would want to obtain or achieve? So those are some of the contours on which you can think about as you start defining your purpose. The second element of this RAP mental model is around alignment. It's not just enough to articulate a purpose or to have a lofty dream which is not even rooted in reality. We need to start aligning each and every element, each and every attribute of our lives with our purpose. And don't get me wrong here, we have seen a lot of people mistakenly believing that something is their passion, something is their purpose, and going all out without a real or tangible plan or having the economic resources to support them in case the pursuit of their passion or purpose does not yield the results that they might have otherwise achieved in a more predictable path of a regular job or a career. So, this alignment that I'm talking about is not something that you would do all of a sudden. If it happens hastily and you do have the resources and the bandwidth, and most importantly, the financial cushion to support you in case things don't go your way, by all means, you can be hasty and you can go all in. But if you do not have those cushions, it makes sense to be pragmatic about the pace at which you start aligning your time, your energy, your resources, your career path, your activity, each and everything to your ultimate purpose. But the most important thing here is that in order to achieve your purpose, you may realize that there are some gaps that are there in your arsenal. It may be that you do not have certain skills. It may be that you do not have knowledge about certain aspects, or your network is not strong or robust enough to be able to thrive effectively in that ecosystem around which your purpose lies. So you can be pragmatic about a lot of these things, and you can ensure that you not just leave your purpose at a high level, lofty mission statement or a goal or a dream, but you go down to the next level where you are able to translate your purpose into tangible skills, resources, activities, actions that you need to take. And you can start taking some of these actions, start building some of these resources, networks, connections, learning, skills, whatever it is that you may need, so that ultimately, when you reach the right stage and when the time is right, and you have built up enough of a financial cushion or other means of support, then you are able to pursue your passion or purpose relentlessly. Be pragmatic about the pursuit of your purpose. And this pragmatism leads us to the third aspect, which is resilience. As we've seen both in the pandemic as well as earlier during this year, which was not related to the pandemic, but which is probably more related to the macroeconomic environment in the world, the looming recession, the funding freeze that has happened in the startup ecosystem, and a whole host of other such factors. We have unfortunately seen a lot of people getting fired, losing their jobs, being declared redundant, being asked to leave, and so on and so forth. Things may not have been as dramatic for each and every one of us, but the fact of the life is that in any career path, in any life path, there are these ups and downs. The peaks and the troughs are the law of nature, and nobody can escape. So, the key lesson there is that one needs to be resilient. We need to shake off these bad times and continue. The way I look at it, some of these external events, these triggers, which force you out of your comfort zone, are actually good for you. Had it not been for these sort of events or milestones in your career, you may have probably just gone down the same path and may not have even been prompted enough to actually think about your purpose and to start aligning your action, your career, your goals, and your activities around and rally around that central purpose. So, these sort of events may well turn out to be a blessing in disguise, as we have seen in a lot of cases. However, we do not speak enough about the other category, where because things just continue as usual, status quo persists. And this reminds me of the parable of the boiling frog. So let's first understand where this boiling frog is coming from. So there was a behavioral experiment conducted where two pans of water were taken and a frog was put inside each one of these. But there was a difference in the timing when these frogs were put into the pan of water. In the first instance, a pan of water was kept with a frog in it and the pan was heated at a slow pace such that it came to a boil only after a few hours. What happened as a result was that the frog, which was earlier in cold water, started enjoying the lukewarm water and started feeling the warmth and enjoying the warmth of it. And over a period of time, as the temperature of the water increased, the frog did not realize because it was so much in its comfort zone and it ended up boiling itself to death. In the second instance, a pan of water was taken and it was put to a boil, and the frog was taken from the outside environment and put into that boiling pan of water. And guess what happened? The frog immediately jumped out of the pan. If you connect these two situations to the corporate examples that I gave you about an external event, an emergency which triggered you into taking action, is the case where the frog was put into the boiling water. Whereas in the first case, you are in your comfort zone, you are in status quo, and you do not even think about the fact that your current environment is actually drowning you or boiling you to death. Of course, in a metaphorical sense. So keep this powerful metaphor or this parable of the boiling frog in your mind and review where you are going in your careers. Is it that you are in an environment which is boiling you to death? It may not be so dramatic, it may just be something mundane, but something which is definitely inhibiting you and hampering you from achieving your purpose or your larger goals. And finally, we come to the last element to wrap it all up. And here I'm talking about wealth. You might be wondering that wealth is not related to career management or planning. It is a completely different field. It's related to personal finance and investments. I am a middle class person. I do not even have wealth. But believe me, this segment is most important and is as intrinsic to career management and career planning as you can think about. If you're in a job, let me ask you a very simple question. Why is it that you go and do a job? That you spend all your day away from your family in some office working for somebody else? Of course, it is for an economic reason so that you are able to generate income which can meet your expenses and you are able to save enough so that you can build a corpus, and ultimately when you retire you have that corpus with you and you can enjoy your retired life peacefully. If that is the mental model that you have of a career and of employment, then isn't it that your ultimate aim is actually to build a retirement corpus or a corpus to meet your other financial objectives, whether it be the education of your children, the marriage of your children, the higher education, an international holiday or a series of international holidays, buying a house, buying a luxury car, whatever it is that you may be chasing. If you view it in that context, the accumulation of resources or creating and managing that wealth becomes an integral part of the process of going about our careers. And this is not just about smart or even disciplined investing, which can help you generate your wealth and create a huge corpus through the magic of compounding. Of course, there is merit in all of these theories, but in the context of this discussion on careers, I am talking about something else. What I'm talking about is something that can be compared very closely with the whole concept and approach of creating a portfolio of financial assets. Just like we create a portfolio of financial assets where financial advisors will ask you to invest a certain amount in equity, another proportion in debt, some portion in real estate, some in gold, some in cash, and so on. Similarly, when you are looking at investing all your time and energy and building your skills in your career, you have to look at your career as a portfolio of options that you have. And as we mentioned earlier, a career may not just be unidimensional. So you need to figure out what is that portfolio that you want to create. Do you want to be too concentrated in one career class, just like you would have one asset class in the financial or investment world? Or would you want to diversify your risk and create a portfolio of multiple career avenues? And certainly, the financial implication of that is creating multiple revenue streams. And the similarity does not end there. In the financial world, we often say that past returns are not indicative of the future. While investing, we always look at the future potential of companies and organizations rather than what their past track record has been, because that is more likely to correlate better with the kind of returns that we would expect in the future. Similarly, when building this portfolio of careers, of skills, of opportunities that you have around you, when building this portfolio of professional opportunities and careers and skills that you may create for yourself, you need to look at what is it that will be relevant in the future. You need not look at what is it that you did in the past which you are proud of, but you need to figure out where is it that the world is heading so that you will be able to capitalize on it and create enough resources and enough wealth for you to be able to spend more and more time on aligning with your purpose. One thing that I'm sure you would have noticed is that I went the other way around. Instead of wrapping it up from W to P, We started with the purpose and came back all the way to wealth. This brings me to the last and the most important aspect of this discussion. I have seen a lot of people putting the cart before the horse. They are looking for greater returns, they are looking for more money, they want to be wealthy. And what they end up doing in their careers, they believe is only incidental to their ultimate objective of wanting to make more money. But unfortunately, it does not work like that. We cannot start with wealth and figure out our passion later. We cannot start with wealth and then figure out how we want to align our activities so that we can get or generate more wealth. It has to start the other way around, because if you are doing something which you are passionate about, which is something you truly enjoy, you will definitely find it easier to go from purpose to alignment by building those skills, because it is something that you would naturally do, you would enjoy, and you would definitely become good at it. And once you do something that you enjoy and you are good at it, and of course there is also a demand for it, there is no stopping you, because that is your ikigai. So I hope this has given you a perspective and you have been able to wrap your heads around the key questions that are there in your mind around your career. Whether it is, can I change my careers, as we've seen in an earlier episode, or whether there is any other question that is going on in your mind around careers. And since we've spoken about the right sequence of doing things in your career and thinking about your careers, there is also a right sequence of watching videos on YouTube. Now that you've gained some insights and hopefully enjoyed this conversation, you need to share your thoughts in the comments below around what are your thoughts on how you are going about managing your career. And while you are at it, do remember to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to continue with this sequence of this year in review series, then I have a video, one each day for the last 22 days of the year in this playlist. As always, you will find the links in the description below. And with that, I will see you in the next sequence, which is the next episode of this series.